Walk with me on the devil's left way path, where we will take several turns along the way. This path is both dark and light. Crooked our steps will be, for the witch's journey is never straight nor narrow. Greetings and salutations. I am your hostess, Kindra RavenMoon. Welcome to the Thorn Rose Witch podcast. Here is where we'll discuss a bit about everything that falls under the umbrella of dark spirituality, such as witchcraft, Satanism, devil worship, and all things related, above, below, betwixt, and beyond. From time to time, we will also cover topics related to Wicca and contemporary paganism in general, and how such intermingles with the currents of dark spiritual practices. This is the introductory episode of the Thorn Rose Witch podcast, so we won't be taking any deep dives into dark topics until the next and future episodes. Today, I will start by sharing a bit about who I am, why I started this podcast, and what it will entail. Then I'll fill you in a little bit about where I've been, why I disappeared offline for so long, and what happened to my publications, my work in progress, and what's going on and what happened with Natural Satanic Witchcraft and the revision about that work. So, a little bit about who I am. For those of you who are not already in the know, well, as you know, my name is Kindra RavenMoon. This is my registered business name, although Kindra is part of my legal birth name, not my first name, but it is part of my legal birth name. RavenMoon obviously is not. I have been presenting as Kindra RavenMoon since the early mid 90s and have been publishing under this title since about 2002. And that's not publishing books. I did not start publishing books until 2009. But in 2002, I started writing for, it might even been before, maybe 1998, 1999, when I first started writing for local pagan and occult magazines. I used to have an herbal column in two local pagan magazines and wrote articles in others. The most known magazines from Montreal, where I was living and where I'm currently living now, um, were titled Eight Sabbats, Montreal's Magical Circle, and Wintergreen. These are the main places where I had my herbal column or articles in. I also did music reviews for pagan bands, pagan artists, and that could have been even my journey or how I started into music journalism. For those of you who know, a lot of you came to know me as when I was doing music journalism, especially for the longest time with brutalism.com, where I did music reviews, album reviews for underground death metal mostly, and of course some black metal. And then years later, I progressed to being a music journalist for Brutalism, where I was interviewing bands. So I also did music journalism for a few other sources and some gothic magazines, one particularly out of London, England. And for the life of me right now, I cannot remember the name of it. But this is how people have come to know me through this and through music as when I used to be a death metal vocalist with Reformed Death Nation. But I also worked with several other bands and artists, you could say, on different projects. With both as a musician and as a model. And that's how a lot of you came to know me and what I was writing and published my books before modeling or during the time when my heyday of modeling, you could say. But somehow my modeling work made people in the occult world discover my writing more. And they became more popular through specifically two main satanic theme photo shoots I have done back in 2000, between 2007 and 2009. And some reason those photos were popular then and then somehow got popular yet again or rediscovered yet again after 2012, which is funny. But I was basically earned my living and became very popular and known as being an alternative dark arts gothic model. And my modeling, the works I did and works I was commissioned for, kicked off around the time, like I said, that I started publishing books. So this is how people know me, that and being, of course, an author, a witchcraft, a dark occult author. And that's it in short of who I am. A little bit more background on me, I could say, is that, well, like I said, I published for the pagan magazines, and later on, after 2003, I started also writing articles, occult based articles for international online occult zines, and also things related to dark witchcraft and Satanism. Um, what else can I tell you about me? I have formal education in religious studies and Western esotericism with related currents on that, also in anthropology. And I have alternative education in herbalism, aromatherapy, and gemology. So basically, that's the gist of it. This is the surface of who I am in a nutshell. For those who didn't already know, I'm the former host or hostess, you could say, of the radio show Sundead Morning, where I featured a playlist of underground death metal and black metal, announced things for bands or artists looking to join bands or whatever the case. And of course, it was a show of black metal, so of course it had to do with old school black metal, which involves devil worship. So each show consisted of a devotional prayer to the devil or to Satan, you could say. Either at the beginning or end of the show, some episodes would have guided diabolical meditations involved at the end of the show, things like that. And that Sundead Morning very much influenced my later podcast in recent years, Devil's Coven. Devil's Coven is basically what Sundead Morning was, minus the metal playlist, you could say. Now, when it comes to Sundead Morning, the interesting thing with that is that it aired at 3 a.m. Saturday, 3 a.m., or you could say Sunday morning at that point, 3 a.m., and the show lasted until sunrise. And this was a weekly show. And it's funny because when I did Devil's Coven, I did something similar, just that each episode of Devil's Coven would air Saturday at midnight, or actually, sorry, Friday at midnight, hence the witching hour is Saturday. So I always kept things around the witching hours, midnight, 3 a.m., and but in between that, I started. So I'm the former host of Sundead Morning. A lot of you know me from that. And back in the day when MySpace was a thing, I always announced Sundead Morning through MySpace. And then in more recent years, I was the co-host for the podcast, now that no longer exists, Hails and Horns. This came up around 2020, I believe, during the pandemic, and we had it going for over a year. And then Hails and Horns ended abruptly, without my knowledge. Even it got removed from all the platforms. It was the original founder of it, Nightshade. I was a co-host of the show. He handled all the technical work. I just kind of showed up and did the show with him. And he decided one day he wanted to take a different direction. He deleted it off all platforms, and then he disappeared offline. So luckily, though, around the time that had happened, I had just initiated Devil's Coven, and I ran Devil's Coven for a little over a year, and then I that was on Speaker.com, and this is in recent years. I think this was on 2023. I did Devil's Coven when I took it away. I had to take it away because I couldn't afford the cost. Speaker.com, when you're in Canada, such as I am, the Canadian dollar is crap next to the US dollar. Now it's even worse, but then too was pretty crap. And I was paying it out of pocket, and then I was into like 6, 7 months into it, and it's supposed to renew yearly. And speaker.com just threw came in months before it's supposed to renew and decide to renew it right then and there, and boosted up the price a lot. I was paying about 16, $17 monthly Canadian, and they boosted it up to about 30 or a little over $30. And then they said, well, I'm going to lose the podcast if I don't renew right then and there. So of course I was basically F you, and I left. The thing is, just before that happened, I did announce it, and no one member of Devil's Coven, of those who would tune into it, I would call it the congregation, because if we would congregate there weekly and do online rituals together, satanic based rituals and dark witchcraft rituals, diabolical guided meditations and prayers. And it was like a sermon every, a diabolical or satanic sermon every week, and no one offered to help except for one person, this wonderful member of Devil's Coven, Angel Ray. He's a great guy, great devotee of the devil, and he offered to help me pay it. The thing is, I wasn't going to let him do that, because to me, it should have been everyone who was following the podcast regularly. Every member of Devil's Coven should have helped chipped in, not just this one guy. So for me, it's all or nothing with me. So boom, I took Devil's Coven away. And it's too bad, because I missed podcasting. This is why now, here and now, I recreated this Thorn Rose Witch podcast. The Thorn Rose Witch has been my handle and sort of nickname for the longest time, for several years now. And I decided, why not? Like Kindra RavenMoon is a registered business name, so now is Thorn Rose Witch. So I kind of amalgamated them together. Well, they're separate as business names, but Kindra RavenMoon is the Thorn Rose Witch, right? So it always will be affiliated. And I'm using it not just for the podcast or for my YouTube channel, my new YouTube channel here, but Thorn Rose Witch is also the what I'm going to be publishing under. Like, it's Kindle RavenMoon, but instead of it being, yes, it's independently published, but I'm sticking a name on that. So Kindle RavenMoon Thorn Rose Witch, and I have my logo for it and everything. So this is where we stand now, and this is a bit about my background and why I restarted this podcast, because so many people were after me to come back to social media, come back to YouTube. And wanted a podcast again. So I'm giving it a go here. So let's see where this goes. So, yeah, so here we are. And basically, what happened, why I disappeared offline. Um, my Instagram got hacked when I opened up a new account using another name too, and I made it private just to filter out a lot of unsavory types that I didn't want in my following. Um, it was just bored me. It's too much. Like, I'm not one to take pictures just to take pictures. I'm not like a Instagram influencer. You could say I'm not an influencer, and I don't want to be. So I was using it mostly just to follow some cool accounts, keep up with music stuff there, and like bands and that I like, and magical people, witches, and other that whose profiles I like to follow, who give good information. Problem is, I wasn't seeing that popping up on my feed. Whenever I open it up, it was nothing but a bunch of accounts who I didn't follow, and a bunch of ads, which I didn't want. I don't need to see that bullshit. So it was boring the hell out of me, and I wasn't motivated. It wasn't motivating me. So I deleted it. Not long after, my Facebook page got compromised. So I lost that. I was never able to regain it. So Facebook just deleted that. And I was pissed off. So I'm like, okay, fuck it. I'm not supposed to be on social media. And I was fed up with all the BS, anyways, all the bullshit on social media, and wannabes and false information, false news, and everything else. So I left the online world, and I'm glad I did, because I got so much done offline, read so many more books, and took so many great classes, and interacted with the occult, and even I'm not pagan, but I interacted with the pagan community a lot here because there's a lot of people in the pagan community like me don't identify as being pagan. We're other or something more dark. And anyhow, I made new friends in the offline world and attended many events and rituals, public stuff. And then I started doing full moon rituals, traditional witchcraft full moon rituals for people. For those of you who are not in the know, my initial practice is I am a traditional folkloric witch. I have been for several decades now. You could say about 40 years, maybe give a little more. I've been into the occult since I'm 16 years old. Well, I always had, growing up, um, family members who are practitioners of one thing or another. So I always knew about magic or could see things, and I felt things as a child, which I'm going to get into in the next episode, which is all about the devil. So I'll get into more about my background with the devil from childhood and onwards in that episode. I'll give a little brief on that. But that, or maybe even in another episode, totally different. But anyway, um, since I always had that around and I had certain abilities, you could say psychic abilities or sensitivity, psychic sensitivity, really active as a child, like activated, you could say. But I only started getting really interested seriously in the occult and studying it and practicing at the age of 16. And by the time I was about 21, 22, is when I really knew that the path for me was what we call now traditional witchcraft. To me, it was just witchcraft. But now it would be termed as traditional folkloric witchcraft, folkloric because it's influenced by the folklore of the early modern period. So it's ever since then. So yeah, I might look a lot younger than my age, but to know my age, just give it at that. I started practicing when I'm 16, but it's been about 40 years since I've been identifying as a traditional folkloric witch. And everything else I practiced or learned about or been part of during the years, I had amalgamated it into my witchcraft. So I never stopped being a traditional witch, even when I was into Satanism heavily, or here's the thing, I'll talk about this more in the next episode, but I don't identify as a Satanist anymore. I haven't for a long while. But this doesn't mean I don't believe in the devil. And the devil's has always been part of my life. So, and even if you approach the devil, and I'm talking about the witch's devil, not the Christian boogeyman, if you approach the devil as Satan, doesn't necessarily mean you're a Satanist, you know. So but we're going to get more into that next week. But this is where I'm at. That's what happened. My old YouTube channel, that I shut down before losing the Facebook because I just got bored with it, and a lot of the videos I done, you could say that my opinion has changed on some things I said in some of those videos, and I wanted to redo them, but I didn't have the time or the motivation, and I just shut it down. Now, when I closed down my former YouTube channel, I had a little over 10,000 followers at that point, which is a lot for someone in the dark occult, presenting within the dark occult or under the umbrella of dark spirituality. And I had shut it down. It like that YouTube channel was open for maybe about 2 years, and within 2.5 years went up to a bit over 10,000, and I shut it down. But people were after me for so long to redo YouTube again, so this is why this channel exists. Here I am now. I opened this channel over a year ago, but it wasn't at the time. I wasn't thinking of coming back to YouTube. I more or less just opened up this channel. It was under just K, like K for Kindra, just so I could follow the other content creators on here who I love and maybe interact with them, like put comments under some of their videos, put likes. Like my friend Sandy BJ, she has an awesome channel on here where she gives rune readings and weekly oracle readings. And I like to encourage that. So, of course, I want to comment under that and put likes, thumbs up. However, you need an account for that. So this is why this channel exists, and it's only recently that I decided to. Yes, I'm coming back to YouTube. I'll start creating on here again. I feel motivated to do so, and I'm gonna keep it simple this time and not here as an occult educator. I present in my playlist Kindra's Corner, book reviews, and then I have the podcast here, and I might open up another playlist just called Story Time, where I'm going to share personal stories of my run-ins with things paranormal and other things occult. But that's in the future, near future. But for now, this is what it is, and I'm back. So this is why I restarted this channel again, and it's my way of giving thanks to those who have supported my work all these years. And everyone's been after me, oh, open a Patreon, even on my last YouTube channel, but I don't want to do that. Like, this is my offering to you. Like, people buy my merchandise, you supported my work, you buy my books, you give me great reviews, you review my books. So I'm giving back, and this is what I'm doing, as simple as it is. And I'm rocking it old school because I'm not going to have any fancy filters or all the bells and whistles to make it look like a mini movie or whatever, or super pretty like most of the awesome content creators on here do. I'm not here for that. I'm not here to be the biggest YouTube influencer or social media influencer, and I'm not here to get the most subscribers either. I always like to keep things a little bit underground. This is as not underground as I get, presenting on social media, and mostly also so when I publish a new book or something other, you'll know about it. And this is the purpose for that. So it's for those who truly support my work and who like what I do, and that's it. I'm not here to impress. So this is why I'm here. Now, a little bit more here. So basically, that's what's happened to me from my books that disappeared. Earlier this year, I shut down my Lulu account. So that was the only place where you're able to obtain my book, Gems of the Adversary. And for my other work, Lucifer Devotional, which was the only other published work I had up on Amazon, I removed it, but don't worry, it's coming back. They're both coming back. I took down those books off the market because I'm in the process of revamping them. One of them is already complete. I just have to work on the cover, but they're expanded upon and revisioned. So you'll be getting those shortly. Lucifer Devotional, the expanded edition would have been out now at the beginning of this month. The only problem is that we're in Canada here. We're having a postal strike, and the postal strike with that means that I can't get my author copies to review, and I don't want to publish anything if I don't see what it's going to look like first. So how it is you upload your files to Amazon, and you could either publish it right away, which I don't want to do. I want to have them send me my author's copy. Once I receive that in the mail, I could look it over. If there's any changes to be made, I'll make it, fix it, and then have it have it published and put public. So unfortunately, I don't know when. I'm not in control about this postal strike. So whenever this postal strike is off, then I'll look into submitting Lucifer Devotional and Gems of the Adversary to Amazon and review how it's going to look when it's published and then put it public. So you guys just all got to wait for that. But that's what's happening with my books. Now, people have been after me for the longest time. What about Natural Satanic Witchcraft? We want Natural Satanic Witchcraft back. Don't worry, Natural Satanic Witchcraft is coming back. It is being revised and will be out hopefully by the late spring 2026. For sure, next year it's going to be out. Most likely under a different title, but Natural Satanic Witchcraft will be in there, or there'll be a reference to it that this is the book. But you guys are going to be getting that back. The original story with that is I sold under 100 copies of it, maybe 50 to 80 copies of the original version off of Create Space back in the day. Besides that, I never made any money off it. Kindle Direct took over Create Space, and this happened to several other authors as well who were on there. And they uploaded the files to Amazon. At the time, I didn't have an Amazon account, and so I had no access to anything. I didn't even know how to contact them back then. And they took it. This was the original book was published in 2010, and in 2011 or 2012, around that time is when Kindle took it over. And they what they did is I created everything on Create Space within their file, and I had stuff like just different ideas, unedited versions, different things in different files there. What Kindle slash Amazon did is they took everything from all the files, but they didn't take the finished book that was already selling. And of course, they took over Create Space, they stopped sales of the original book, and they took all the crap files plus the files for my book Gems of the Adversary was also in there, and they amalgamated it all together, and then they put one of their generic covers on it. The cover that you see on Amazon is not the cover I created, it's their thing. They put it out there and we're selling it. Now what they were selling was a total botch up of my work. It had, not only was it, grammar was horrible, there were words stuck together in the middle of sentences, were big bold letters. It was a mess. And it took me a few years before I was able to legally, through a legal thing, settling with them out of court, got them to stop publishing it. However, during that time, several third parties purchased it and started selling it on Amazon off their accounts and selling it on eBay and elsewhere at ridiculous prices. So what you see up there is not the real uh, Natural Satanic Witchcraft, but I want to do it justice, so it is coming back out. And so you just got to wait for it. And that's about it for this first episode. That's all I will share with you today. I hope that some of your inquiries have been appeased. And on the next episode of the Thorn Rose Witch podcast, we will be discussing the devil and his role both in traditional witchcraft, Satanism, and devil worship. So until then, my dears, I want to bid you all darkest blessings and blessed be under Lucifer's light.